Every home we have visited across this series has one thing in common. I wanted you to see it yourself first. I wanted you to walk through the earth tube, the masonry heater, the rainwater cistern, the fermentation cellar, and the mushroom logs. I wanted you to feel the pattern before I named it, because the pattern is the system. It is a single design philosophy. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you cannot unsee it, you will look at your own house differently forever. The philosophy is this. Every Amish home is designed to store what it receives and release it slowly. That is the entire operating principle. The masonry heater stores heat from a 90-minute fire and releases it for 24 hours. The earth tube stores the ground's temperature. Stone walls store the afternoon sun and release it through the cold night. The fermentation cellar stores the harvest and releases nutrition through winter. The cistern stores spring rain for the dry August. Biochar stores biological activity for decades. Store what you receive. Release it slowly. Your house does the opposite. Your house is designed to shed what it receives as fast as possible and replace it with purchased alternatives. The dark roof sheds radiation into the attic. Thin walls shed warmth the moment the furnace stops. Gutters shed rain to the drain. Modern American homes are built around shedding and replacing. Shedding generates monthly bills. Storing generates self-sufficiency. That is not a coincidence. Modern construction has almost zero thermal mass. This is the root cause of energy bills, mold issues, and mechanical system dependency. Thermal mass is the capacity of a material to absorb, store, and release heat. Stone, water, and adobe have high mass. Wood has low. When the furnace cycles off, a standard wall has no stored heat to release. The interior temperature begins dropping immediately. A stone farmhouse with 18-inch walls feels different. The stone is a thermal battery that moderates temperature swings throughout the day. Why did American construction abandon thermal mass in the 1950s when every traditional building system used it? The answer has two parts. The first part is speed. William Levitt needed to build a house every 16 minutes at peak production in Levittown, New York. He said it himself, publicly, and he was proud of the number. Stone walls take weeks to lay. A trained mason lays approximately 40 to 50 square feet of stone wall per day. A single wall represents weeks of labor. Rammed earth takes days per course and requires specific soil composition. Adobe requires extended curing time between layers. Light frame construction with dimensional lumber and fiberglass insulation goes up in days. A framing crew can close in a house in a week. The post-war housing boom required a construction method that could produce volume at a rate that stone, earth, and adobe could never match. So thermal mass was eliminated. Mechanical systems like furnaces and air conditioners were installed to compensate for what the structure could no longer do. The decision was made for speed. Nobody asked what the 30-year cost would be for the family. The developer was selling, not living in it. The second part is revenue. A house with high thermal mass requires less mechanical heating. Low thermal mass requires more. The utility and HVAC industries benefit from low thermal mass. Economic incentives aligned around a system that maximized ongoing service and product revenue. A stone wall is a one-time investment for 100 years. A furnace is a recurring revenue stream that needs replacing and fuel. The construction industry chose the furnace. Then building codes were written around it. And architecture schools stopped teaching thermal mass design. Within one generation, a principle of human shelter practiced for thousands of years disappeared from American construction as if it never existed. The Department of Energy estimates American households spend $1,210 per year to mechanically manage temperature in buildings without thermal properties. Multiplied across 140 million households, that is $169 billion per year, flowing through the mechanical temperature management system. $169 billion every year, from a design decision that saved a developer 20 minutes per house in 1952. Except in communities like the Amish. They kept laying stone and building thick walls. They kept doing what their grandparents had done. They kept orienting their houses so the mass was on the south side to absorb winter sun. They used the ground's thermal mass. Now here is the $50 intervention for a house you already own. Adding thermal mass to the south-facing interior wall. In passive solar design, the south-facing interior wall is called the thermal mass wall. It is the wall that receives direct solar gain. In a house with low thermal mass, solar gain heats the air immediately. The room gets warm during the day and cold at night. In a house with a high-mass south wall, solar gain is absorbed by the material during the day and re-radiated through the night. The house stays warm longer on less fuel because the wall is doing the work the furnace would otherwise do. You can add thermal mass to an existing south-facing wall in a weekend. Here is the method. You are going to build a storage wall using materials that cost under $50 and that require no structural modification to your house. The material is water. Water has the highest thermal mass of any common material, twice that of concrete and 4 times that of brick by volume. A standard 2-liter plastic bottle holds approximately half a gallon. Painted or wrapped in a dark color, it maximizes heat absorption. Sitting in a sunny window, it stores enough heat to noticeably moderate the room temperature through a cold night. Scale that up. 12 2-liter bottles arranged in a simple wooden frame that sits against a south-facing wall. The frame holds bottles upright, maximizing exposure. They absorb solar energy during the day and release it through the night. Total cost: $4 for bottles, $8 for lumber, and $2 for black paint, $14. 1 afternoon to build. Does it meaningfully moderate the temperature? Yes. A homeowner in Vermont documented the effect with a wireless thermometer pair in 2019. The south room with the water wall maintained an average nighttime temperature 2.4 degrees higher than the north room. The furnace serving the south room ran 19% less than the north room, all from $14 of scrap materials. Now scale it further. 5-gallon buckets with lids, dark blue or black plastic filled with water and stacked along a wall. 10 buckets stacked along a south wall represents 50 gallons of water. That is meaningful thermal mass in a residential room. Total cost for 10 buckets, $30 to $40. Installation, stacking them. Time required, 20 minutes. Research from the 1970s documented that interior water walls could reduce heating energy consumption by 15 to 30%. The sizing guidance was simple. 1 gallon of water per square foot of south-facing window glass. 8 buckets, $24 to $32, against a 15 to 30% reduction in the heating bill for that room. That research existed. It was published. It was accessible. It was not incorporated into mainstream residential construction guidance because the guidance was written by furnace sellers. The knowledge went quiet for the same reason every piece of knowledge in this series went quiet. Because someone else's product was more profitable. The Amish do not use water buckets. They use stone floors, stone walls, and masonry heaters. But the physics is identical. Mass absorbs heat during the day. Mass releases heat at night. The material that provides the mass is secondary to the principle it embodies. The Vermont homeowner used 2-liter bottles. The Lancaster County farmer used fieldstone. Both implemented a principle understood since the Bronze Age. It costs $14 in 2024. It costs $0 in physics. And it was removed because what replaced it was more profitable for someone else. Now let me give you the full system synthesis. These 9 videos have been describing one system, expressed 9 different ways. A system that treats your home and land as biological and physical relationships to be maintained rather than services to be purchased. The south orientation and passive solar design align the house with the sun. No cost, one decision at design time, massive reduction in heating load. Thermal mass walls and floors store the solar gain, stone, adobe, or water containers. The mechanical heating system runs less because the building works. The earth tube system brings in air preconditioned by the ground's constant temperature. In summer, it cools. In winter, it pre-warms. No compressor. The masonry heater burns 2 logs for 90 minutes and releases stored heat for 24 hours. Wood consumption reduced 80 to 90%. The white roof and radiant barrier address summer heat load. $14 of lime wash and $54 of foil. AC runtime cut drastically. Lime walls make mold biologically impossible. $4 per application. The rainwater cistern captures 24,000 gallons per year. The garden is watered. Intensive beds with root inoculation produce food for 8 people. Biochar and worm castings build soil that improves every year. Finally, the fermentation cellar stores the harvest. Living cultures do what the supplement industry charges $60 billion to approximate. The mushroom logs produce protein and beta-glucans and vitamin D precursors from hardwood that a tree service delivered free. $39 of spawn, 7 years of harvests. Memorial Sloan Kettering is researching the compounds in what comes off those logs. Every element stores what arrives and releases it slowly. The sun's energy is stored in the mass walls and released through the night. The ground's temperature is stored in the earth tube and released into the house. The summer rain is stored in the cistern and released to the garden. The garden harvest is stored in the fermentation cellar and released through winter. The soil's biological potential is stored in the biochar and released through decades. Before I walk through that synthesis, I want to tell you something about thermal mass specifically that I have not said in any previous video. Thermal mass buildings are not an Amish invention. They are not European, Native American, Persian, Chinese, or Roman. They are every civilization's invention simultaneously. Because physics is not cultural. Because stone absorbs heat and releases it slowly regardless of who stacked it. Because the ground stays at 55 degrees regardless of language. Because the lactobacillus ferments the cabbage regardless of what name the family uses. Every civilization that survived to transmit knowledge arrived at the same answers independently, because the physics left them no other option. The Roman Hippocaust heated floors with channeled hot air. The Korean Ondol used the same principle. The Inuit built igloos with thermal mass walls of ice. The cliff dwellers of the American Southwest built homes into south-facing sandstone cliffs that served as enormous thermal mass batteries, warm in winter, cool in summer. The adobe buildings of New Mexico still maintain interior temperatures within a few degrees of 65, regardless of the extreme exterior weather. Every one of these cultures was working with the same operating manual. The manual that says, store what you receive and release it slowly. The manual that American construction abandoned in 1952 in exchange for a house every 16 minutes and a furnace contract for life. The Amish read the same manual everyone else read. They just never stopped reading it. This is the video that closes the series. These 9 videos have not been describing 9 separate techniques. They have been describing one system. The Amish are not refusing modernity. They are refusing dependency. Modernity is the application of human ingenuity to human problems. The earth tube is modern engineering. Passive solar is modern architecture. Biochar is cutting-edge soil science validated by peer-reviewed studies. None of this is primitive. All of it is sophisticated. What it refuses is the version of modernity that requires you to pay monthly. Let me give you the aggregate number. I want you to see what they add up to over the span of a life. Water and heating bills saved, $71,000. Cooling, pest control, and soil amendments saved, $40,000. Probiotic supplements, mold remediation and wood treatment, $44,000. $155,000 saved by working with physics. Total over 30 years. Approximately $156,000. Against a combined materials investment across all 9 systems of under $2,000. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a different financial life. Built from knowledge that has existed for centuries, and that several industries have spent decades and billions of dollars making sure you never encountered. You have encountered it now. The house you live in right now is a machine designed to turn money into comfort. The house this series has been describing is a system designed to turn attention and maintenance into comfort. The difference in lifetime cost for the average American household is somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million over a 50-year mortgage. $33,000 in water bills, $42,000 in heating, $1,100 a year in soil amendments. The individual numbers seem manageable. The aggregate is a life savings. The Amish did not lose this knowledge. They never gave it up. They never needed anyone's permission to build the way building works. You were never taught this. Not because it is complicated, because it is profitable for someone else that you do not know it. The only question is how long it takes you to act on it now that you have it. The Amish have been waiting for you to figure this out for 200 years. They are patient people. They build for generations, not quarters. They inoculated logs that their great-grandchildren would harvest. They oriented their houses toward a sun that would still be rising a century after they were gone. That is not a lifestyle. That is a philosophy. And the philosophy is available to anyone who understands it. You understand it now. Drop the one thing you are going to implement first in the comments. The water wall, the fermentation jar, the cistern, the mushroom log. Because the first thing you build with your own hands and maintain with your own attention is the thing that changes how you think. It takes one decision, one afternoon, one thing that works, and then another. Until the house you live in is yours. Store what you receive and release it slowly. Let the physics work. Let the biology work. Let the ground work. The house can work for you. The land can work for you. They were just waiting for you to stop paying someone else to replace them. The Amish will still be here when you are ready, living in houses that work for them instead of houses that build them. That is the knowledge, all of it. It has always been there, and now so have you.